Hey, welcome to the upstreamlife.com. I'm your founder and editor, Vishal Krishna. I love life insurance. I've been covering it for 2 decades. But unfortunately, life insurance penetration is only 3.2% of the GDP in India. It will increase. It's a big opportunity. With me is the youngest life insurance company in India. It's called the CreditAccess Life. And I'm lucky to have its CEO and MD, Mr. Diwakar Ram Boddupalli. How are you, sir?
All good, Vishal. Thanks for
All good. Thank you. But you have to tell us what CreditAccess Life does quickly.
CreditAccess Life is dedicated itself solely, exclusively to serve the low-income population of India.
Okay.
That's about it. And give them the comprehensive financial solutions, along with insurance, of course.
Great. So if you don't have an insurance already, go buy it. Life insurance is important. You would agree?
Absolutely.
Right? Because you don't know when accidents happen and you want to protect your young ones, your family. And that's what Credit Access Life does in the rural areas. They're going into Sirsi. Go check out the town. They're going to work with the farmer community there. Is that right?
Absolutely. And if you love your family, you will buy insurance.
There you go. And I would request you to ask questions, enjoy this podcast, and let me know what you thought about Credit Access Life. Thank you. Mr. Diwakar, how are you?
All good, Vishal. So nice to meet you.
Thank you for being part of the Upstream Life. Insurance is what started off for me in my career. That was the first thing that I started with, writing about insurance, micro insurance, rural communities. And Credit Access Life is in that part of the business and completely rural, unlike in life insurance in the cities, right? That's an interesting thing that we want to get into. I want to talk about yourself. You have a long career. Why get into something in the rural community? And you've been doing this for more than a decade, I guess.
Yes, that's true. It is a matter of providence that I got into this segment. I would call it a segment. Why? Because I started my career with Life Insurance Corporation incidentally. Later, I went into banking. So I completely went into a very different segment from insurance, but I got into more of lending, due diligence, assessments, and things like that. But during the course of that lending, I had a great chance to work with the microfinance communities way back in the early 2000s. That was the time when I started very actively working and going to the field. So at least 2 to 3 weeks in, let's say, in a span of a quarter, I used to spend in the villages with the borrowers because I used to understand what they need, what they require and all. And the bank had the mandate because I was working in SIDBI and it was a development bank and we had a mandate to customize certain loan products for that community. So we always had to look at ways and means of reaching out to what they need rather than putting a product and say, take this. So that made the entire perspective change. And though I continued in bank after that, ICICI Bank and Yes Bank and all that, my move to becoming a practitioner when I joined Grameen Kuta, which is today called CreditAccess Grameen, was directly in relation to how do we make an impact to these lives in this segment. So at that point of time,
that was an NBFC.
That is an NBFC. So in 2011, when I joined them, it was a very small company, but I think we are a company with a heart to make an impact in the lives of people in rural India. That was the vision of the promoters. And as a professional, as a CFO, my job was to raise funds for on lending to them. But we never missed the key point of how do we help them, how do we serve them. And in the process, after the loan piece, we realized that insurance is something that is perhaps not really spoken of and it is actually neglected. And that's when the idea came within our own group as to why don't we look at serving them, because you are giving a loan, maybe no access is available, affordability, accessibility, availability of loan is possible, bank accounts are open. So one part of financial services is there. Why don't we look at insurance as well? That's when the idea came. And then we felt that why don't we become an exclusive life insurance provider for this segment of people?
Rural,
which will be rural. In fact, we also work in urban areas, but we'll work in those segments where they are low income segments. Like your Swiggy, Zomato boys who deliver. They are in urban, but they also need insurance as much as a rural.
That's very, very, very interesting. So you're one of the, I think in the last 12 years, the IRD hasn't approved many companies. You're one of the only companies to get a license, right? In the last 12 years?
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right. So while there are 23 companies in the country, we did apply for our license way back in 2019, and ours was a very differentiated model. So the fact that we believe that there is a case for us, given the insurance penetration and all that, we just are at about 3.2% in our 140 crore population. And given the way we are shaping up, there's a lot to do, and there is no specific focused dedicated company, and we felt we can get into this space. Also the fact that as a CreditAccess, as a group, we have been successful in scaling up an NBFC to the current levels, and we have the, I would say, the mindset and perhaps the pedigree as well after years of success to translate this experience into providing the right type of service to the rural communities in a manner that they understand and they need. And I think that's what makes us believe that we are in the right space today.
You said many things, and those within those things are, you said India is growing.
Yeah.
And yet insurance is only 3.2% in penetration.
Yeah.
I want to spend the next couple of minutes or more to get to know why is the penetration of life insurance especially, and health also, very low in our country. Why is that? Let's start there.
Yeah.
And then, bring it down to the business of why Cali is in the rural side of things.
Yeah. So I think there are a lot of combination of factors. One of the key elements of any business, not just insurance business, any business, is that you try to create the right products which the customer needs. And to be very fair and honest, insurance is actually a complicated product. Let's be honest about it. Even when you take a loan, for example, you get something tangible today. And I would put it like your payout, which is a sort of a giving out something, is like a sacrifice. So you get a benefit today, sacrifice is spread over a period of time. But in the insurance, it is quite opposite. You actually pay a premium today, which is a sacrifice. You in fact receive a potential benefit when there is a death, which can happen after some years. So it is on the contingent basis. Now explaining this concept to somebody who doesn't want to even hear
that you're going to die,
is the most complicated things, because financial services by default are intangible products. So when you sell an intangible product to a person, the first thing is he should understand this. And given this complexity and the fact that insurance by default has been a distributor driven model, it has always been given to a customer what the distributor perhaps prefers, or where he is incentivized, because his bread is buttered in a different way. So he possibly pushes certain products. For example, if a company launches a product which is having a very differentiated commission structure, or there is a particular competition by which he sells X number of policies, he's going abroad, he gets enthused to sell a different level of product. Now, when they take that approach, unfortunately, those products may or may not suit that customer. The customer may want something else. So when this has happened over a long period of time, I would say the focus required to actually give the product that each customer requires, because we are also a very, our diversity and the vastness of our very complex nation. So what each customer wants is also very difficult to get. In the process, what has happened is this has become a difficult segment to break through, and therefore the penetration remained very low. But people understand the impact or lack of insurance. Today you can see that, and there is awareness. At some point of time, you do get that awareness created by various means, not necessarily from the companies, but it happens. And one of those offshoots is today a company like ours coming through, and people asking us today. If you go to a microfinance client and they ask us, do you offer also insurance? They never asked us 10 years back, but today they ask us. So things are changing. So penetration remains low on account of these 2-3 key aspects.
The trust factors also.
And also the trust. And I would say LIC is the behemoth in our country, and even the private insurance companies, they are known as a private insurance company's name with a LIC suffixed. So that's the trust people face. So to attain a trust of a company in the rural areas also takes a lot of time. So penetration has been, low for a variety of reasons, I would say. But I think
it's so difficult in this complexity that you talked about. My contention to you is, why choose rural then? I mean, you were telling me earlier that a lot of the companies are not profitable, insurance companies in India, and the trust thing has a big part of it. And then you absolutely said it right. How do you sell death to people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's another thing. And rural people need life insurance because they're exposed to the elements a lot more in the farm.
Correct.
Disease,
Correct.
right? Accidents are a
Yes,
lot more.
yes, yes.
But yet, you're right. The complexity of the whole factor is it's difficult to create a product around death. That's why people offer ULIPs,
Exactly.
and which is again not the right product for that community.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
How do you see this change? How do you see this change?
So actually, it is a business at the end of the day. I think one needs to be cognizant of this. And the fact that there is so much opportunity itself is a business for us. So we believe that rural offers a tremendous opportunity. This is the first factor. That's why we would like to focus there as well in a big way. The second point is we find that the rural communities need to be, the trust factor needs to be created over a period of time. And when you are present in that area through the local person who is aware of the terrain, the geography, and the people, their occupation, their income levels, their needs, their requirements, and from that perspective, when they offer, the probability of their understanding and buying the product is much higher rather than your unconvinced, because this is a complex product. They need to know this. And I think the most important factor is we would want to tell people that insurance is nothing else but a sort of an assurance or a bharosa that when you are not there, your family is taken care of. I think we want to address that upfront. We want to take a very, very differentiated approach to telling the obvious in a manner that they understand the need for it. Why? Because a death in a family can put one generation backward. And people understand this. They don't want to explicitly state this, but they understand it. So the way we would like to do is, we want to state this, point number one. The second part is, we want to state it in a manner which is actually simple for them. We want to, I would say, decomplex the terminology also which is associated with insurance in a manner that they understand what they are getting into. Because we believe, the rural populace actually over a period of time is as good as any other urban population.
Absolutely.
In fact, they take more risks than the urban population, because if you look at a conventional farmer, he has no real clue about when the next rain will come. He is also not certain about whether the power comes on time for him to pump water. He is also not sure whether he'll get the money on time to buy the seeds. He also doesn't know the type of fertilizer so he is actually on a risk-taking mode every day as a person. Now, when you're talking of a farmer and the ecosystem in a village or a town, if associated with this, if you look at it, he is associated with the guy who supplies milk there. There's a cooperative society, and there is a trader out there who is pushing products. So it's all interlinked. So the benefit of working in the rural is you create a trust in one community or one set of people. The word actually carries much more. So you don't really require so much of a marketing and all that stuff. You need to make your presence felt and create that. And the risks which are obvious to us,
associated to you,
which they live with on a daily basis, are something we always factor in, because insurance is supposed to take care of such risks.
Absolutely.
What is the fun of giving an umbrella to a guy when there is no rain?
Correct.
Similarly, you need to provide an insurance to a person who is actually exposed to risk.
Yes. So you guys had something called the joint liability model in the in finance.
In finance,
can you do something similar to sell insurance?
We do a slightly different version.
Okay.
In a loan model, what happens is that in the joint liability concept, the affinity between people, I know you, you know him, and he knows somebody else. That affinity brings people together and say, I will guarantee his loan because I know it. He will guarantee my loan. And that's the reason. So you do a grouping of people. So this is one. What we try to do is, we do a group level underwriting.
Okay.
Where we actually take many people into our fold and we do a group level underwriting. So they need not be linked, but there is obviously a master policy holder. But the benefit of this is, because we do a grouping, the cost of insurance or the premiums that they pay becomes a fraction of what they otherwise buy way of individual insurance.
Got it. Diwakar, you've told me about the trust factor in life insurance. You told me about the urban rural in India is getting somewhere. We need to create a place where people go buy life insurance, because death is real, but nobody in India wants to buy that story. But things are changing. I think, will the kids go tell their parents it's important to buy, or whether your team does it, let's paint a picture. What does the rural community think about in terms of saving today, or saving for or some form of safety net for their children? Do they think about it at all? What are the kind of products that they buy, and why do you think rural is actually profitable and for the better for India?
Yeah. I think you touched 3-4 points. You touched about awareness, you touched about the rural kids, you touched about they want to save, and what is it that they think for future. Actually, these are all very related to any business, more so for insurance. I think the we need to also give credit to the fact that in the last 10-15 years, if you really look at it, the penetration of microfinance across the country has been stupendous.
Yes.
Stupendous. Today, as per the last report that I have come across, the outstanding loan to microfinance clients across NBFCs, banks, SFBs is around 3.5 lakh crores. It's much more than the credit card loans. So you can imagine the rural segment, and this a part of this, I would say almost 60% is rural today of this particular outstanding, which shows that people's needs have also increased. That's one. Secondly, there is an availability and people are able to access it. And the fact that they have bank accounts, now there is a UPI, there's an angle of technology around their daily life, enables a smoothness or ease of operation, which makes taking a loan or getting something very easy. The other important I want to touch base is CIBIL reports, which you and me perhaps are very familiar with in urban India. You won't believe, they may not know CIBIL, but they know that their record of repayment on a regular basis is tracked somewhere by somebody else. So the lady knows that if she delays or defaults, she actually may run the risk of not receiving her next loan. So people have also got used to understanding that risk of default as well. So why I mention these risks is, the rural India, or I would put it more than the rural, low income segment runs on risk every day, every minute. And the children today in rural India, they are exposed to a set of knowledge and gadgets. Every house has a smartphone today. The way the children are in a position to tell the parents that this is what you need to do, or this is what you perhaps is better, the awareness has changed. There was perhaps a newspaper reading habit in certain houses at one point of time. Today, if you really look at it, there is a telephone in every house, a smartphone, through which you're getting all sorts of information. So access to information, I would say, is available. And this has translated into aspiration. The minute you have a smartphone, you have a knowledge, aspiration. So when you ask me whether they will save, whether they're aware, they are actually now finding the need to save. And with the bank account and with the ease happening, they actually ask us, can you give me a product where I will save something? I'm not worried so much about the interest, but I will save it. But when I want it after 6 months, I'll take something. Can you give me this product? So today, as an insurance company, we are eligible to offer a product which is savings linked insurance. So if I design a product, my actuary is working on that product. If I design a product which is customized to their requirements, actually I don't have to sell the product because they need it. So the way we are approaching the issue is, you have a market, you have a rural segment, I call it, which is aspirational, which is also having the technology availability and access, and they know what they require. And if I am in a position to design what they need, to be very honest, my job is done. And if I give what they need, tell me honestly, do I need so much of a marketing cost?
No, you don't.
No, I don't require marketing. So how do I do it? I only need to have my person there. Cali as an entity should be present through its person, who will provide that ease of operation to say, oh, you want to save money or you want to pay a premium? Okay, I will arrange for it through this particular route. And she immediately gets a receipt on her mobile.
Yeah, okay.
So we have to utilize the current strength of the ecosystem in terms of technology, marry it with the needs of the customer, and then see what we can offer. Automatically, your viability is never a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad the actuaries are working on a savings linked product, which I think that will build a lot of trust.
Yes.
The other thing is endowments
Yes.
are always confusing.
Yes.
But when you sell an endowment, will it be an endowment for them?
We
Term
don't-
life, will it be a term life? These things.
I will tell you. Endowment is something that's another complicated word.
Yes.
We would want to say very differently. What we want to say is there is a product where when there is a death, nominee receives money. There is a product when there is no death, you receive this money. We don't want to confuse them with a term life and an endowment. That is only for the mainstream as far as our
Yes.
compliance requirements are concerned. So the way we look at it is whether you call it a term life or an endowment or a savings linked, we try to categorize it in two categories. One is Suraksha and Samruddhi. So Suraksha products are all protection products.
Yeah, from accident, death, whatever.
Anything, any
Yes.
death, Suraksha, we call it protection. Samruddhi is your endowment or your savings linked insurance. So we would like to make people know that you are buying Suraksha, you are buying Samruddhi, and this is for yourself. We are a provider, we'll give you this product, but this product is for you.
Got it.
So we are not pushing the product. We are saying this is an available thing, you take it.
Will you use the CreditAccess Grameen network at all for this? Or
Yes,
will it be
yes.
completely- That helps, right? You have a network,
yes.
what, in
Exactly.
350 districts in India?
Yes, yes. They are present across the country, and we will gradually use their branches. At least when I say branches, they are a regulated entity. We are also a regulated
Yes.
entity. There are various norms in which we need to function around all
they're
this.
more from the RBI side, and
Yes.
you're from the IRDS side. Yeah,
Exactly.
correct. It's very well regulated.
Very well regulated. So we will work out a mechanism where presence is very important. So we will work out a mechanism where we'll utilize, especially in the deep rural areas.
Yes.
There is no point for us to put across branches on our own, especially when another branch is already available. So we'll work out a mechanism which is compliant in all its way, and ensure that we gradually build branch network around that particular piece, so that our penetration also increases.
Okay, insurance has been like the trust model. It's an agency model.
Yes.
There's a bank assurance model that happened in between.
Yeah.
And you made a pun earlier that insurance in India is like the manufacturer sometimes does not make money. It's everything in between. How do you want to further build on that? How do manufacturers really make money? Is there an agency model that you'll go through? Will it be direct to customer that you want to build? Because that builds serious trust, because on your other company, the NBFC, you could ride on that platform as well. What are some of those distribution strategies that you want to employ here?
Yeah, this is a very pertinent question for us in our model as well. So normally what the approach we have taken is, we need to accept that today India has got an institutional intermediary setup already existing. Today, if you go to a rural area, you have already existing. You have banks.
Yes.
You have NBFCs. You have small finance banks. You have primary agricultural cooperative societies. You also got district cooperative banks. You have got rural cooperative banks. You have got SHG federations. You have got farmer producer organizations. So you have so many entities under whom there are so many people who are associated. So our approach has been, as I told you earlier, we do a grouping of people and give a group insurance.
Right.
Because the costs will be low for them as also for us. So let's assume a case where I go to a intermediary. We call it an institutional intermediary and not an individual intermediary. An individual intermediary is called an agent.
Yes.
And when you call it a banker, it is basically the bank becomes an agent of the institution, and we call it bank assurance model. But what we are saying is there is already an existing intermediary model, and we try to go to that particular entity and say that you have, let us say, 500 people under your fold, and you can offer our product to your constituents who need this.
Oh, you're letting them do it. Yeah.
They will do it for us.
Yes.
And we will give them, as per the regulatory requirements, whatever can be shared with them, we will share with them.
Yes.
So it becomes a win-win model. And most importantly here, the people, the constituents, they know that SHG or a FPO more than me actually.
Correct.
Because they have been associated.
Them.
They trust them. So what we are trying to do is, while we establish our trust over a period of time, we also ensure that their existing comfort zone and the trust which has already been there with other intermediaries is something that we'll actually take the benefit from.
Okay. It's interesting. Does that bring the cost down, the agency cost down?
Yes.
Because and there are two things here. One was the agency and what they sold. And sometimes the agency would sell a unit-linked product when it's not a life product per se. It's an investment-led life product,
Yes,
correct?
yes, yes.
That's something that you don't want to do.
We wouldn't be doing.
You just want to focus on the essentials, which
Yes.
is protect your life.
Yes.
There is some savings that we offer you, and you want to keep it simple, right?
So the way we look at it is that, can you eat a biryani every day? No.
Certainly, high calories and destructive.
Can
Yes.
you eat a dal roti every day?
Possibly. Keeps
Very
you healthy.
likely.
Yes, yes,
I mean,
yes.
even if you don't want to eat, nothing will happen.
Yes.
So what we try to do is we give a product which is like your dal roti. We give a simple product. So when I go to a particular institutional intermediary, I tell them that this is the product and that's about it. And this is something that they need, which you also understand. The key is intermediary should understand the product, and only then they'll be able to sell it to the customer. So the way we will tell it, this is a simple product. First, we'll make it as simple as possible so that they understand, and that gets translated. So the way we look at it is that the simplicity of the product in terms of design and also delivery will keep it as less nuanced, and that will bring in transparency. Ultimately, we would like to build a business based on transparency, because the minute you bring transparency, trust comes in easily. We tell them what you offer. It will not be very different from what I speak to you, what I speak to my institutional intermediary. So when the communication and the messaging is uniform across, irrespective of who the customer is, customer knows this is what he gets.
Correct. And the pricing is how low for the rural community in your case in terms of the savings and the endowment? Or the term life. You want to call it term?
Term life. So what happens is, the typically insurance goes by your mortality rates and tables and all that. And traditionally, if you look at women have a longevity more than that of men. So the premium rates for women are generally lower than that of men. So
in the rural, is that true in rural?
Both in rural and urban.
Okay.
Both in rural and urban. Actually, in urban areas also, contrary to what one may perceive, the probability of the mortality being actually, I would say, it will not be very different from the rural. It could actually be higher. You know the reason? The reason is your exposure to a lot of things in urban areas is much more than in rural.
Okay.
You go out on a vehicle, even if you're walking on the street, somebody can, you can fall down. And the stress levels of an urban city is very different. You look at the Zomato guys who are delivering. He has to deliver within like 30 minutes, or the pizza guy. He actually is racing. He may be 25 or 30, but he's already having a blood pressure. You think that will not hit him at some point of time? So urban also has certain risks which are not perceived.
Yeah.
So human life has got its own mortality, ways in which nature has created. So from that perspective, the premiums are lower for women and relatively larger.
Okay.
And when we do a group model of insurance, the overall premium that somebody pays for a policy of a particular size will be much, much lower than a conventional individual policy.
I like this group thing because the FPOs there, or those pharma associations over there, that's a group thing for you, right? That can be very low, very and it's like a group insurance, right?
Exactly.
And it's an additional product that they can buy over there. Let's call the elephant out. It's the LIC, that they all have LIC.
That's sure. Fine. That's fine.
But they can buy these things. And what would be typical savings? They can put in as little as 500 rupees in the group.
Yes, absolutely.
100 to 500.
And a person can save as little as 500 rupees per month. Absolutely.
That's good.
It's we want to give the product that they need. That's the difference. We are not saying that my minimum level is this much. We will say whatever is your minimum level, we are fine with it. See, here you are talking of costs and profitability. Normally what happens is, a lot of these issues are related to the organization structure and profitability. And therefore certain rules are created that the minimum level should be X, Y, Z. Where we have changed our approach is that we believe the minute you offer something and you create there's always a fixed cost that you need to do for establishing. There's also a variable cost. The way we have built our business model is that there is certain fixed cost for a certain level of business. I think that is something sacrosanct which we will initially put in. After that, whatever incrementally comes through, we use technology in a big way. And that actually brings down the cost. The initial setup cost will be definitely higher, but incrementally it will not be so much.
Yes, not many people realize if you're watching this, they're only 6 months old.
Yeah, we are just 6 months old.
Right? You're a startup. And you said technology, and when I talk startups, everybody talks technology. There is a physical setup which you'll do. For example, your first experiment will be in Sirsi.
Yeah.
It's a very beautiful town in Karnataka, northeast or northwest. It is northwest Karnataka. I've been there. It's very beautiful. Why choose Sirsi as a start off kind of an experiment, and with all your products that you're offering, and from there on, how does technology play a role for your expansion?
I will tell you. See, to be very honest, for us, there is business across the country. We don't really say that there's less business here, there's more business there. Because for us, everybody is a client.
Yes.
I may not give him big amount of insurance, but I'll give a small amount of insurance. So to that extent, everybody is a client for me. That's point number one. So we chose a particular place because we found good people there. This business has to go, again, I say, repeat trust and transparency. Yeah. So when you find a set of people on whom we can bank upon and who understand our business and where we need to start off, and we are in Karnataka. Yes. So we obviously, the first branch has to be in Karnataka, and therefore we felt that wherever we found the right person with the right approach and the right mindset, who felt that there is a need and a gap that you can bridge in, we just felt that we found Sirsi, we found a very important person who said that he will actually help us set it up and all that stuff, and it's already existing business.
And I think they have a very powerful farmer community there, right? Yes. Lot many cooperatives, many farmer organizations.
Yes.
That would help your group model.
Absolutely,
I'm sure.
Absolutely. When you give something to what the farmers, what they need, and in a manner that is transparent and fair and makes it very open, I think the probability of they buying insurance from you is very high.
Okay, and the awareness, how would you want to plan other districts, other cities, smaller towns, villages? Because when you say rural, you're really rural.
Yeah.
And I would suggest go to their website to check them out. And your vision is about the rural community.
It's completely.
Obviously, there's urban poor also.
Yeah.
Why choose these communities? I'm still curious. Why choose these communities? Are harder to sell, but you were right. They all have smartphones. They may also have a television. Their children may be working as delivery boys, maybe they're working as farmers, maybe there is a aspiration. Why intrinsically choose?
See, I would say normally, what people look at in any business is take the low-hanging fruit.
Yes,
that's a normal tendency. But once you pluck out all the low-hanging fruit, you still need to go to the next branch, and go to the top flower, right? In our assessment, what we have seen is that there is a large segment of people who are already untouched. And that segment happens to be the low income segment. So why do you need to chase people who are already being, let's say, given insurance in the, at a large sum and all that stuff? And people are doing it. There's so many companies doing it. We felt that we actually have the advantage because of our own experience of dealing with low income communities. I'll give you some
from your NBFC.
From our NBFC. Historically, our gross NPA has been less than 1%. But if you look at banking as a sector, the gross NPAs have been much higher. So there is tremendous business value in working with this segment of population. So our experience has been so very
it's
positive,
very focused, very
focused.
Niche,
and we felt that let's extend it to this, and therefore for us it is a natural extension of what we have been doing, and our belief in working with them, where we have been actually successful, the trust of our borrowers over so many years, and the fact that today we actually feel in a way responsible or obliged to give them this product.
It's interesting. Whereas in the last 20 years of me covering insurance, it's always been 20% for the rural. It was mandated. Right?
Yeah.
For somehow that model didn't scale. Why? I want to know why. And because you're niche into this. While let them all continue, the other that 20% commitment should be there. I'm juxtaposing the two. Why 100% focus on urban poor, rural poor, versus only 20% mandated for others?
So what happens is when the insurance industry got deregulated in 1994 and these obligations and all were put in place, these obligations were very similar to the rules that RBI prescribed of priority sector lending because they needed to focus on that. And insurance companies did a fairly good job, and they obviously had to reach out to the NGOs and the trusts and all that stuff over a period of time. I wouldn't say they weren't successful or anything. They did a fair amount of job, but there's a lot more to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it was only the penetration question.
Yes.
So there's a lot more to be done.
where we believe we have a chance is essentially because, as I mentioned about our own experience and our understanding of the market. Our understanding of the market says that as long as you provide the customer what they require,
it'll sell.
It will work. And we believe that there is a level of warmth and trustworthiness, which is something that you need to experience, which is there with this segment of people, which we believe is so essential for financial services. So it is something that we believe is very natural for us to work with. See, when you do a financial service transaction, the key point is trust. It works both ways. They need to trust you. You also need to.
That person's going to be there always.
Exactly.
That's the thing, right?
That's the key. That's the key. And they need to know that, for example, if you have to settle a claim, we have put a norm in our own setup that as soon as we receive the death certificate, within 24 hours we settle the claim. So the minute you do that, I tell you, the demonstration effect of that particular incident of claim settlement coming on time has a big bearing in the entire community. It doesn't happen so much in urban. Nobody will even know that your claim is settled. But in a rural area, they'll come to know, oh, some claim has been settled. They took insurance from that company and it has come back. Which is where we are, having that experience of benefiting from that community.
It's an interesting thing that a lot of people have to realize. People say life insurance is not needed, but I think it's needed because you don't have to get into debt when somebody dies.
Exactly.
That's the whole deal, right? A lot of people take in a lot of expenses. And sometimes they don't have the savings to do so too, right? Even funeral.
Imagine. So in fact, we are trying to look on a funeral product. Can you believe it? You know why? Most of the poor people, in the last minute at that point of time, they really do not have a minimum expenses for a funeral. So we are working on an innovative structure to see if we can do some funeral coverage.
Okay, that would be wonderful.
This is something that, so these are the innovations that we try to do.
It's very Indian.
It's very Indian. It's very customized to, very local, very localized to any state, any district, any taluk, any village.
Will you link life and health at some point?
We won't link, but we will offer it. We'll offer it.
You can offer a health product.
We can offer a health product up to a particular limit. We will offer it.
Okay, essential today?
It is essential. It is very much essential.
Because that also is less penetration, right?
It is very much essential, and it is a much required product.
What's the penetration of health, for example, healthcare kind of products? Very little?
It's much less than even this 3.2. In fact, health insurance is much more penetrative in the urban areas where you have a structured employment facility, corporate. But other than that, it is very less and negligible in other areas. Wow. And it is again still sold or distributed. And that's where the entire game can get very different.
You know what interests me is in my 2 decades of reporting career, this insurance number has just not moved. It's so strange. It's an opportunity, and that's the complexity. And I'm glad I want to talk about the technology. I mean, that's how the penetration you can increase, right?
Yes.
What is that technology that you're talking about?
So, I think at an organization level, we use 4-5 types of technology softwares. One, you need to essentially manage your treasury. One, you need to maintain your finance and accounts. And one, you need to maintain your actual valuation. The other one, you need to maintain your policy admin system and things like that. Now, all these are at an organizational level.
At a corporate level.
Okay. None of these actually, to be very honest, help the customer.
Yes.
So we believe in a technology, ultimately, that helps the customer. Either it should help the customer in his transaction with our person on the field, or the technology should help directly our person who is handling with it. So the way we are trying to approach is essentially with minimum documentation, we should be in a position to issue a policy within 24 hours.
Okay, got it.
That's the way we are working on it. The receipt will come automatically, but in 24 hours.
But they can work on an app or something.
Exactly. Also. Okay. We will not want to burden the customers with an additional app. Our understanding is that there is an app for everything virtually today, but it may not necessarily interest the customer.
So it'll be assisted.
Very nice. It will be very simple, easy for them to follow, but effectively the customer will not have to do much.
Got it. Let's talk about this assisted model for a bit. Will you have touch points?
Yes. So the way we look at it is, we will have our own people, our own employees in these areas.
FPOs and all that, yes.
FPOs will be our intermediaries.
Okay.
To work with an FPO, we'll have an employee.
Very good.
So he will be our point of contact person. FPO will contact him. Even the customer also can know that he is our person. There is a branch out there. It may be a one-man branch. It may be a two-man branch. It may be it's not a conventional setup of 5,000 square feet and big branch with all the. No, it's not like that. It will be a functional branch office, which will ultimately go to the customers and seek out what they want. But the customers will know that there is an office. That's more important.
Got it.
The recall for them is there is an entity. There's an office.
Entity here to stay.
There's an entity to stay.
Okay, got
That's what we need to clear.
Got it. Diwakar sir, you painted a beautiful picture about rural India, insurance penetration, the difficulties, the trust, the awareness, and everything that ensues thereon. So I want to know, with all that we've said, what are your plans? I mean, we're starting out the first branch office in Sirsi, which is really rural but very beautiful farming community. People should visit there. What are your plans for 18 months now for the brand CreditAccess Life? Where will it go? Many districts, hiring many more people. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, actually, it's a journey that we would like to start off with Sirsi, and our hope is that in let's say 12 to 18 months time, we should be present in at least 10 states. When I say 10 states,
that's rapid.
Yeah,
rapid expansion.
We may not have too many branch offices, but 10 states, because we would like to diversify. But the key is that insurance itself has to be spread across for our own risk management purpose. So I would like to be, let's say, present in 10 states, but through our own branch offices and relationships with these institutional intermediaries.
Yeah.
And I would not call it unreasonable. It looks like big, but I think it's a challenge from a perspective of getting the right type of people. For me, when I say branch offices, I mainly look at people. It's not just the brick and mortar office that I look at, but mainly because you need to train people. You need people with that passion to serve. It is not just another job. So I would say that that's a challenge to find the right type of people, because while it's at the end of the day, it's any other job, you also need to have that orientation to serve. You need to have that inclination to associate yourself with that community with whom you want to work with. And finding such people is a time-taking process. There are enough people. I wouldn't say that Bharat has enough number of people like that, but to get them on board, train them, and they going to the field and start working. It's
a challenge.
But I think that
so you're currently hiring also, which is a good thing. So rapid expansion. It'll be different states, different products, or one set of products.
One set of products, and yes.
So how many do you have today? How many products in total?
We have about 4 products.
Okay, that's the savings linked life. There is the
2 versions of term life, and 1 version of term life which is for a higher cover, which is on a reducing balance basis.
Okay, very nice. Okay. You talked about, because we're coming to the end of the conversation, I want to know, you said community is very important. India is very unique that way.
Yes.
Africa has more penetration in terms of insurance than India in many ways. South Africa, for example, you mentioned that. I want to know, how do we create this community approach to build insurance, or that Bharatyata that you talked about earlier? What is that? What does that mean to you?
So I think we should be very cognizant of one simple factor, that despite the fact that Bhagavan has created you and me separately in a different way, you think very differently, I think very differently, the fact remains that there is some level of affinity to the place you come from. There is a link to what you do in that particular place. There is something that passes on from an earlier generation that you perhaps need to stick to. So when I call it a Bharatiyata, despite our diversity, there is a thread amongst all of us which makes us link to the roots from where we come from.
Yes.
I think that is very important, and that's very important for our business also. For example, if I open a branch office, let's say in Sirsi, I have to honor the sentiments of people in that particular area, because they are familiar and used to that. I can't say that, no, Bangalore has a different culture and I'll impose my Bangalore culture. I'll be out of that market. Similarly, what I do it in Sirsi may have to be tweaked a little bit for Bangalore or Udupi.
Yeah.
It could be very different.
It's only 150 kilometers apart, but
still
very different.
You have a various. And I am saying, when I say Bharatiyata, the need to recognize this particular variance and the diversity, and marry your own process and approach to giving what they need in that area is what makes you successful. So that's Bharatiyata.
Community first, yes. And you go back to your roots.
You go back to your roots. Give them what they need. Yeah. Don't put, It's not a, nothing is a cookie cutter model, or nothing is a one shoe size fits all.
Yes.
You need to customize, you
Yeah.
need to innovate, you need to be flexible, you need to give what the customer wants, whether it is a branch office or even tweaking a particular process and somewhere, because you need to respect what they require.
India is unique, very
Unique.
complex that way. Yeah.
So in that sense, I would say, we always talk customer first, only customer is there. Honestly speaking, irrespective, you even in your product, in your business, if you do not give what the customer wants,
Yeah.
you're out of the business.
Absolutely.
Now, if I'm doing a micro retail product across branches, I have to do something which the customer wants. And I would say Bhartiyata is invariably linked to giving what the others want.
Yeah, that's very well said. I think that community first approach will go a long way rather than impose something on somebody, which is what I think life insurance struggles because of that. But going back in the past, it was always about community, right? That uncle auntie model.
Yes.
That person, hey, he's my friend. I know him for 40 years. I trust that guy. That's how it works in communities.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I think businesses are built on the basis of trust, transparency, fairness, and being flexible to offer what they require rather than imposing what you think is good for your organization.
Got it. Well, very well said. Now, I can't let you go without asking you, what inspires you? Do you read a lot? Do you listen to some podcasts of philosophy? You seem to be very philosophical, so I'm asking, what are some of the key books that you recommend us, for example?
I wouldn't recommend a book for various reasons.
Okay.
One of the reasons is that a book has to be driven by the interest of that particular person.
Absolutely.
And it is not what interests me will interest you.
Correct.
Well, that's one. The only thing I would recommend, but not a book, is to know about, let's say, yourself or your country or your history, your past, and what made you reach this place, and how you all came in, how your parents came, what made them, what did they go through, what is the upheavals they would have gone through, and what are the challenges they would have faced. I think you may not face those challenges, but it is necessary for you to know that. Absolutely. It makes you a better person,
a stronger
because you'll appreciate difficulties. The minute you appreciate difficulties, automatically as a person, you will look at solutions for solving certain likely problems that will be coming up your way, which may be different from what your parents have faced. But you need to understand those difficulties.
Rather than sulk over it.
Yes. No sulking. Sulking doesn't take you anywhere. Absolutely. It's a completely a negative energy.
So I'm glad you're such a positive person. All the best to CreditAccess Life. 6 months into the journey, the 24th Indian life insurance company. All the best to you, Diwakar.
Thank you, Vishal. It was a pleasure speaking to you. You gave me an opportunity to express myself.
No, pleasure's all mine. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So go check out the CreditAccess Life website, guys. And by the way, they're completely rural, so you want to check them out even more. So that's something that interests me. Enjoy this podcast, ask questions, and why don't they ask us questions? You'll answer it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool.
Anytime.
Thank you so much.